founder of a game a lot of you either have at home or have played before, Pictionary.
This was 41 years ago, the story I'm about to tell. But I remember it like it was yesterday.
It has sold over 38 million copies in over 60 countries with over $1.2 billion in sales.
One night we started playing, as we call it, charades on paper. We went from 8,600 games my first year out of my apartment to 350,000 in year 2.
How did you transform it from that idea to this global sensation it is now today?
We produced 1,000 games by hand in my apartment. Nobody did that back then. All I have to do is sign this piece of paper and I'm going to make $1 million or $2. With no plan B, we turned them down. You have these moments in your life that just resonate and you just know this is the moment. My partners and I had no idea what we were doing. It was like the launch is going to fail. We're not going to have the games done. What does an entrepreneur do? We just keep moving forward till we can't go forward anymore. I pulled myself. I went, okay, I'm going to get this thing done no matter what it takes. And you'll know when it's time to either turn around or just keep going 1,000% faster with your hair on fire.
Hi everyone, today we're here with Rob Angel, who's the founder of a game that I imagine a lot of you either have at home or have at least played before, Pictionary. But just to give you some context of just how successful Pictionary is, I pulled up some stats from online. It has sold over 38 million copies in over 60 countries with over $1.2 billion in sales. But Rob, I want to ask, where did it all start?
Well, it's always a good place to start. It started in my little house that I was living with 3 buddies after college. I just graduated from college, 22 years old. No idea what I was going to do with my life and my time, right? So I'll say a typical 22 at the time. And yeah, right. I was waiting tables, and we all worked restaurants. We get home about midnight. And all of a sudden, one night we started playing, as we call it, charades on paper. Simple idea, right? Like most ideas are. Mm-hmm. It was a simple idea. We just, 2 roommates on this side of the table, 2 roommates on this side, and we'd whisper words to each other. You've seen the cards now, but back then we were just whispering words out of the dictionary, right? And if you got the word right, you got like a swig of your beer and a piece of pizza. I mean, there was no rules. 22, we were drinking a lot of beer. We were an adult. So yeah, it was just a silly activity, silly, fun thing to do.
Was it something you came up with, or had this been a game or a tradition you'd had around for a while?
No, it was actually one of my roommates did it at college. I mean, I give credit where credit is due. And he said one night he played it. I go, sure. I mean, that's the not the genesis of the business, but that's the genesis of charades on paper.
And where did it come from after that? How did you transform it from that idea to this global sensation it is now today?
How much time do you have? Let's start at the beginning of that, from there as well. So 22 years old, and I kind of see something in this idea, right? I couldn't get it out of my head, and I go, this would make a good board game. Because remember, 1982, I mean, everybody now is on their phones, and they're playing video games. 1982, it was all board games. So my brain went, I should make this a board game. My roommates thought I was nuts. Of course, they said, whatever, go ahead. I mean, how many times have you had an idea and you listen to your silly friends and they go, that's terrible, you can't do it. You're just a waiter. They were telling me, don't listen, right? Don't listen to them. And I didn't listen to them. And so, unfortunately, I listened to myself, right? I got inside my own head. Just a waiter. I really can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I said it like this to you. Look at it. I'm just kind of whining as I'm, I don't know what I'm doing. Really was that bad because it was driving me crazy because I knew it was a great idea, but I didn't know how to bring it to market. So for 3 years, 2.5 years, I didn't do anything with it, right? All good ideas. A lot of good ideas get put away. I knew the value proposition were the words. I knew instinctively, there was no internet to say, hey, Rob, you're going to create a game. Here's the steps. I'm going, what do I do? I know, right? And so the first step was creating a word list because we were using a dictionary and it took time and the game slowed. So I figured if I could create a word list and sell that, I got a business. That was the first step. So I literally went in the backyard one afternoon, I know, with a dictionary and a yellow legal tablet, and I read the dictionary. I mean, I don't know who's listening, but I don't think anybody's read the dictionary. I have, right? And so, and so I remember this was 41 years ago, the story I'm about to tell. But I remember like it was yesterday. Right? You have these moments in your life, and you'll have many, many more that just resonate, and you just know this is the moment. And this is my, as I call it, aardvark moment. I open the dictionary. I'm waiting tables. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm a waiter. And I look and I see the first word, which was right here on the left, aardvark. Do you know what an aardvark is?
The animal, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I knew it was an animal. I didn't know what it was. I go, yeah, what the hell? I write down the word aardvark. Now, you asked me how Pictionary got started. That's how Pictionary got started. Writing the one simple word. Writing aardvark.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, everybody talks about mindset and you can do it. Well, I don't know. Maybe I could, maybe I couldn't, quite frankly. But when I wrote down the word aardvark, there was this mindset change of a waiter to a game inventor. Well, what do game inventors do? Well, they just keep entrepreneurs, really, not even game inventors. What does an entrepreneur do? We just keep moving forward till we can't go forward anymore. It took me 3 years to write the word aardvark. It took me 30 seconds to write the second word, abacus. Abacus, A-B. And I'm reading the dictionary, A's to Z.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the easy genesis of how it got started. It wasn't easy, but that was the genesis.
And once you wrote those two words, what next?
You're
I'm intrigued now.
gonna lose my sunlight pretty soon. Say what next? What next? After I wrote the word list. Well, then one thing you want as an entrepreneur, you do have to find out if your idea is as good as you think it is. So I had to do a play test. I mean, maybe, it was all the beer I was drinking. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't as fun as I thought it was. So I did a play test with the rules, right? I wrote some rules and I had a board, so formalized this concept. It was so much fun, I forgot I was doing a play test. I was like, I got done. I go, oh, shoot, I forgot to take notes and pay attention. I'm going, okay, this has value. This is something that I can sink my teeth into. And every step of the way, every time we talk about it, every step of the way was another validation. Every step of the way is when something, your game, your whatever project you're working on, when you get, incremental steps, just a little more farther ahead, it's a validation to keep going. And that's what this was. My first, okay, I got something. Let's see, what happened? What happened then? Did the play test, did the word list. So now I've got to create a business, right? It's one thing to have a product, one thing to be creative, which I am, but it's another thing to have a business. So one thing that creative people sometimes miss is they don't want to run or know how to run a business. My superpower, by far, is I know what I'm good at, and I'm okay admitting what I'm not good at. Without that, Pictionary doesn't exist. So two things Mr. Pictionary isn't great at. Drawing.
That's ironic.
It's totally ironic. I suck at Pictionary. I'm a great guesser. But it's a well-known fact. I don't know how to draw. And it's almost been like a badge of courage now, not to learn how to draw. So I'm terrible at that. But so I needed a graphic artist to create the game, the board, the rules, the look and the feel of the game. But then I also needed a COO, someone to manage the business. I love, right, creativity, creating, marketing, selling. Getting out there. I'm really good at that. but I don't want to work in the back of the house. I want somebody else to do it. So I got somebody infinitely smarter than me to run the business. And that's, there's 100 reasons why I'm sitting here. And that's one of the biggest reasons is I knew what I wasn't good at and I was okay admitting it. Let's see. Questions?
Yeah, is there a way you can do a self-audit of that to find your weaknesses and your strengths? Is it just listening to yourself, listening to how you perform?
Yeah, there's a self-audit. And as as I went along, I understood these things. So it was as you say, it was a self-audit by process. So as I got farther along, I realized, oh, this is working, this isn't.
Right.
Just by virtue of the fact that it took me 2.5 years to get started. I realized all the different parts to get this thing going,
Yeah.
Kind of overwhelmed me. I mean, I'm being a little exaggeration here, but it overwhelmed me, all the different parts. But when I thought about the word list, when I thought about the marketing, when I thought about, man, I can do that. So yeah, so do a self-audit. And then I will say this 1,000 times, trust your intuition, your gut, and your instincts. Always, always, always. I mean, every bit of the way, my partners and I had no idea what we were doing most of the time. I mean, we made it up as we went. We couldn't consult a dictionary. Anybody remember those? Or Wikipedia, or the internet, or find mentors. We didn't even have mentors. So yeah, I'm not making this up. Kind of went, well, this feels like the right decision. Let's do this. But the thing about that is not everything worked, but we knew deep down it was the right decision. So if it didn't work, it didn't work. We didn't lose okay, I lost my mind once. I'll tell you that story later, but in the scheme of things. But yeah, just trust yourself. And that's what we had to do. And that's what drove us, to these heights.
And how did you find those partners and then learn to trust yourself? Was it friends of yours? Or were you putting up ads saying, I need a COO?
Both were, I got really lucky. Proximity, which one was a waiter. The graphic artist was a waiter in the place I was waiting tables. And Terry, the COO, was a friend of a friend. And he knew what I was doing. So you don't have to sometimes search really far and wide. Just start talking to your friends. Maybe they know somebody. Maybe your friend, maybe somebody you know is the partner you need, right? As long as they don't have the same skill set and they have what you need, right? If you need, maybe you're the CEO and you need somebody creative. Goes both ways. So yeah, so ask around. And if you're in class, probably somebody in your class can help as well, right? The one little bit of advice, somebody said with partners, you're going to be working together a lot. I said, what's the metrics if that's going to be a great partner? And he said it. He goes, if you want to have dinner with them about 5 nights a week. And I go, I'm kind of looking around going, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. But think about it. You're going to be working with these guys, right? 24/7. So if you don't like them, you better like them.
And at this point, have you all quit your jobs? Are you still waiting tables and you're doing it on the side? What was that like?
Oh, we hadn't even got a product yet. I mean, it was like I was waiting tables. Gary was waiting tables. They had real jobs. I was the only one that was still waiting. So now we got a couple of partners, and now we have to actually perform and make a game. I keep harping on this because it's not sour grapes. There was no internet. So
no ChatGPT.
I was trying to avoid that whole ChatGPT. Oh my God. I mean, I asked ChatGPT about Pictionary when it came out. It came out with some really great ideas. I won't lie to you. So
what were they? Do you remember?
Yeah, some about ones about different ways to play the game. Gameplays.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then I have another, after all these years, I have another idea for a board game, and I plugged that into chat, and had some really good ideas. I mean,
when's that coming out?
Well, I got to find a CEO, a graphic. I don't know. I don't know.
So after
Uh,
you all got together, then what was the process like? Were you then just brainstorming how the product would work? You got your list of words. What was happening from there?
that's exactly what it was. So what is the game going to look like? We did play tests, so we kind of knew how many squares we wanted because we wanted the game to be 45 minutes long. So how many squares is that going to
Hmm.
require? How many markers? What the feel of the game? We wanted it to be. I really wanted it to be high end. I wanted people to keep it on their counter or their kitchen table when they're not playing. Now it's that yellow box. The Mattel owns it, but back then it was freaking beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It was an absolutely beautiful box. My partner nailed it. Um, but we had a few issues. Uh, to get there was no one company back then. Let me back up. So we wanted to borrow. Well, the original investment was $35,000.
Hmm. From friends and family or from the bank?
No banks are going to lend on that. So trust me on that. No banks. And when I was in college, and this is one of my bigger lessons. I mean, this is a lesson. All we have as entrepreneurs is our word, right? We all have, there's 1,000 great ideas. There's 1,000 great partners. All these things really come together, but all we have is our word. And when I was in college, I borrowed $2,000 from my uncle to finish school. I didn't have, I put myself through school. A lot of kids do, no problem. But I didn't want to quit and work full time. To pay him back, it was no set amount. 9 months after I graduated from college, I have to drop a check in the mail every month to him. Well, 9 months, I started writing him checks. Sometimes I didn't have any money. So I'd write him $5 check and off you go. No Venmo, no PayPal. This is writing a check. And I paid him off. I'm a man of my word. Even if I couldn't afford to pay him, I paid him $5 and he didn't care. All he cared about was my being a man of my word. Fast forward 3 years later, I call him about Pictionary. He goes, I'll take the meeting. You're a mensch. You're a man of your word. So if I didn't man up, if I didn't pay up my responsibilities, he wouldn't have taken the meeting, and who knows where we would be. So that's a big part of the story. What else? So we had 9 companies supplying us with parts out
Wow,
of the
that's a
phone.
lot.
Yeah, there's no one push of a button and say, hey, we got a game. Here are the specs. So we had 9 different companies supplying us with parts to my crappy little apartment. I think it was like 700 square feet, something like that. And I couldn't go to the bathroom without stepping on a I had so much fun back then. It was, I mean, this 24/7. I want to talk about that too. I want to talk about burnout. Remind me about that. It's really, self-care is very, very important. So we had 9 different companies supplying us parts and put them physically together by hand in my apartment.
Wow. How many games was that? I think 1,000 I read online.
Yeah, 1,000 games.
There's 500,000 cards, I think.
Yeah,
Or there's a lot of cards.
So this is the one time I lost my mind. I mean, I'd love to tell you, all we can do is we can't control everything, but we can control how we react. I did not react well. We had 500,000 game cards, 1,000 games, 500 cards per game. We're supposed to come sorted. 5 stack of 500 cards, drop them in a box. We're done. They did not come sorted. We had 8 days before the launch. And this is snail mail. We couldn't email everybody. So I threw a temper tantrum. I mean, I lost my mind. I'd love to tell you that it was, we can do it. It was like, it was a first-time crisis of confidence. We can't do it. We're in trouble. I mean, it was terrible. And then we got our act together, of course. You have to. We learned a lot of valuable lesson. But this was the worst possible thing to me that could have happened. Absolute worst. It was like The launch is going to fail. We're not going to have the games done. I don't know how to do this, but guess what? We
You
got it
did
done.
it.
We did it, right? We set up a production line in my apartment. We got it done. And there's always an upside, right? There's always a lesson. And what we learned was we can overcome any obstacle. We went from the worst possible moment to the best possible outcome of this terrible moment. And the expression "it happened for us, not to us" is
I
true.
like that.
Yeah, we became very, I almost said spiritual, we became very, emotional after this point. We could overcome any obstacle. So this terrible thing, and believe me, folks, there's going to be terrible things. Your business will your money won't come in, the cars won't be collated, production issues. Stop for a second. You got to deal with it. But stop for a second and go, what's the lesson here? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to learn? Because the next time it happens, you'll be prepared, right? And you will get over it. You will get whatever is necessary done. And sometimes people ask me, how do you know to turn around in your business? When do you know to stop? When? Not if, but when those moments happen where everything's crumbling and you crumble and don't pull yourself up, that's when you know it's time to stop. Because even though I crumbled in that moment, I knew we were going to get it done. I pulled myself up. I went, okay, I'm going to get this thing done no matter what it takes. That's what I knew. I should keep going. And there were more obstacles. There was more trauma, more drama. But every time I knew I was going to get it done, particularly after that first time. So don't get upset when bad things happen. Just go, this is my moment. This is my test. Do I want to continue or do I want to try something else?
That's really good advice. I like that. And there was a story as well about you finding shoe boxes at Nordstrom's, I think, and sorting the cards that way. I read online.
Yes. So to sort the cards, we had to make a production line in my tiny little apartment. I moved all my stuff into my bedroom. And as I say, tells you how much stuff I owned because it all fit into the bedroom. I didn't own anything, for goodness sakes. And we went to Nordstrom, got 170 shoe boxes, put them on these 8-foot tables. And I've got pictures. I wish I could show you. And hand sorted the cards. 18 hours a day for 6 days and got it done. But we collated them sorted them into these shoe boxes. It was just crazy fun stuff. Got it done at our launch. Man, it was like I keep saying this, the not knowing was kind of fun back then.
Yeah.
Now with chat and whatnot, the not knowing isn't as dramatic, but use your own common sense. Chat's a great tool. There's zero question. Oh my goodness, it's a great tool. But you still have to put yourself out there. You still got to get out there. You still got to do the job. You still got to do the work. You still have to learn. I had to learn as I went. So relying on, I almost said artificial intelligence, but even for me, artificial outside influences wouldn't have been helpful. I had to do the work for this to work.
If you were launching Pictionary today, or you had ChatGPT back then, how do you think that it would have differed? Would it have made Pictionary something else completely?
Probably. First of all, Pictionary in its old form wouldn't have worked now. Or I take that back. It would have worked, but it definitely wouldn't have sold all those games, right? There was one of our lucks as far as our business went, barrier to entry into the board game business at that point was really hard. Really hard. We produced 1,000 games by hand in my apartment. Nobody did that back then. The competition wasn't great. Now with ChatGPT, you push the button, everybody could be creating Pictionary. So we had a built-in advantage of not having as much competition. And the other thing was, again, we used to say we got our hands dirty all the time. With ChatGPT, play test this, play test that. We were literally out there with the box before we launched, and a game and would give it to 6 of our friends and say, go play. That was it. We would watch, of course, to see if they understood the rules, if the words were. So yeah, so we did that 30 or 40 times because we wanted this thing to really, really be the best we could be. The best it could, not we could be. Everything was about the game.
And then on that launch, when you assembled all the 1,000 games, did you already have consumers in line? You had retail? Were you going direct to consumer? What was that like?
There was no direct consumer back then. It was all direct to the retailer. So, but again, it's what it was. So there's no, I guess they almost sound like sour grapes back then. But the only reason direct to consumer would have been nice is because we would have made the $30 retail versus the $15 wholesale. So yeah, that would have been nice. No, it was once we got the game produced, it was my turn, my job. I mean, we all worked together, of course, but I had to go sell the darn thing. That was my deal. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, there was only 3, and you can count them, toy stores in Seattle. I could not sell to Toys R Us, Walmart, Kmart, Target. They didn't accept outside game inventors back then. Now they do, but they didn't back then. So we couldn't sell to those companies. So I had to figure out a new business strategy and marketing strategy to sell. So I started thinking about it because, again, there was only 3 toy stores in Seattle. I'm going, I'm not selling a game. I'm selling energy. I'm selling fun. I'm selling, entertainment. Who doesn't like that? So my philosophy was, if you sold anything, you're going to sell Pictionary. So I literally put the game under my arm. I'm not lying. I walked down the street and started selling it door to door. I would knock on real estate companies, pharmacies. They don't sell games at pharmacies, bookstores, the 3 stores. So I just wanted massive distribution. So before us, games were only sold in the big box stores. But because of them not talking to us, we created this entirely new market.
Wow.
It by force. I mean, innovation comes in 1,000 different forms. For us, forced innovation. I would have loved to have sold the inventory to Kmart, but to Toys R Us, whoever. But it didn't work out that way. But again, it happened for us, not to us, because instead of being on the shelf in 2 or 3 stores, we were on 50 stores where we weren't supposed to be. All right? Nobody. You go to one of our big accounts, going back to Nordstrom, was Nordstrom. They sell handbags and shoes, right? I did our big marketing was demonstrations. Everything was about getting that pencil in people's hands, getting them to play. People have to sample your product. So I would stand at the bottom of the escalator, downtown Nordstrom, pad of paper and a pencil. Hey, they'd come down the escalator. Hey, and I was really this kind of goofy. Hey, you want to play my game? And of course they said no. Of course they said no. And they would, people would do this. And so I had to figure out a new strategy because I'd throw the pencil in their hand. But that's when I really figured out what the value proposition for Pictionary was. It was a guessing game, not a drawing game, right? When I made that switch, people got down the escalator and I'd have a picture of a cat. What's that? It's a cat. Well, good for you. Maybe
that's smart.
Maybe you can draw me a cat. Sometimes I'd yell no. And of course, they're going, it's a cat, but they would engage. And so instead of selling 3 and 4 games in 12 hours, I was 12 hours a day, I'd sell 10 and then 20. And then all of a sudden there was a crowd and then more people are playing at home. So that was that centrifugal force, as I call it, of gameplay.
And then in the smaller ones, like the retail, like the real estate stores and the non-traditional stores, were they small accounts? Were they buying a couple of games, or were you going to those stores and trying to get people to play the game as well?
Oh, I was demonstrating everywhere, but it was six. They would take sixes. So we thought
Okay.
they were, and it weighed 5 pounds each. So practical matters. You sell more than six, that's 30 pounds. Nobody can lift that. So we're selling six at a time. And it was only a $90 investment, $15 wholesale. So yeah, I mean, walk in, hey, I'm Rob, local inventor. People loved it. Bottom line, Pictionary was a great game. Simple but great. So your product, your innovation, whatever it is that you're creating, it doesn't have to be perfect the first time out, but it really has to be good. You really have to want it. I loved playing Pictionary, even though I wasn't good at it. I loved my product. I loved my partners. I loved what we were doing. And that's what kept me going. I didn't have a product I wasn't proud of. I was very proud of it. Not just of what we did, but of the product itself. I was proud of Pictionary and everything we did. Financial decisions, marketing decisions were all based on what was good for Pictionary. Not what was good for me or my partners or sales. What is good for Pictionary? Because we knew if that product was in the people's hands, it would take care of us. And so instead of like our pricing, our competition was Trivial Pursuit. And they were selling for $30 wholesale. Excuse me, retail.
Mhm.
Well, that's what we had to sell for, which we just did, which we sold for $15. That was the wholesale price of Trivial Pursuit. Competition. Those 1,000 games, $22 hard cost. So we lost $7
Wow.
a game. Yeah. Imagine going on Shark Tank. Hey, Mr. One, we're losing $7 a game, but it's a great game. So we definitely took a leap of faith on that. But we did what was best for the game, meaning its competition was Trivial Pursuit. So, without, selling those 1,000 games, clearly we're out of business.
And after you sold those 1,000 games, were you still losing money then, or did you find different distributors or different people to get the product in for you?
Yeah, by then we were getting well known in Seattle because of those demonstrations. So we did the 1,000, sold those, and then did 10,000. And yes, mercifully, we found a company in the Midwest that sold the game, produced 1,000 games for, 10,000 games at $8.60, not 22.
It's a lot better.
So yeah, you got to be profitable at some point. So,
And then did that have to change as then you grew even more exponentially? Did the production have to change? You have to find new factories, or were they able to handle that growth?
So what happened was because of banks, well, we could not fund our own growth. Right? Capital was very hard to come by back then. So we went from 10,000, 20,000, but because we were getting national distribution, we needed $2 million, which back then was virtually impossible to find. Now, you can get $2 million falling off a tree. And so we had to license. And this is a big, big part of the story. Probably one of the most pivotal moments of the story. We had to license, meaning somebody else would take the manufacturing, distribution, marketing, and sales, and then pay us a royalty. Pretty straightforward. We had a deal with Milton Bradley, biggest company in the world, game company in the world, Risk, Monopoly, Clue, every one of them. I'm 27 years old by now. I'm making $500 a month, and I'm doing okay. $500 a month, driving a crappy old car, and they come to us because everybody's hearing about Pictionary with a great deal. The biggest royalty rate they've ever given anybody, more money than they've ever given independent game company.
Wow. Can you share what it was?
What? 10%?
Can you share?
10%, which, if you got 3% back then, 4%, you were lucky. It was 10%. They gave us marketing controls, product, all kinds of guarantees that we wanted, except for two things. They wouldn't put in writing. They wouldn't touch the packaging, the rules without our approval because we knew what we had. We knew what
Mm-hmm.
the audience what the consumer wanted. And if we let them do what they wanted, they would turn it into a standardized package,
Mm-hmm.
lose its essence. And we were afraid that we would lose sales. And two, they wanted to control us for 5 years. Everything that we did, they wanted to own. $500 a month, crappy little car, crappy little apartment. And all I have to do is sign this piece of paper and I'm going to make $1 million or $2. In 1986, that's a
Mm-hmm.
boatload of money. With no plan B, we turned them down.
Wow.
Or, yeah, it was like, first hour was like, what have we done? But it was for, what did I say earlier? For the product. And we didn't think it was best for Pictionary because if we take care of it, we knew we'd make money. We knew it would take care of us. And so with no plan B, we turned them down.
Was that just a
Uh,
gut feeling, or did you have to consider it? Were you considering it at all?
oh, of course we were considering. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it was a gut feeling, but it was a practical issue
Mm-hmm.
as well. If they changed the product, and they told us out point blank, they wouldn't give us that approval. And so we knew they had something up their sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was an emotional decision. We needed to remain where it was. But the practical decision was if they change us, our royalties may not be what we expect. So we rolled the dice, quite frankly. Because if it doesn't work, there's competition. We're
Mm-hmm.
out of business. But we kind of had a feeling, oh, that's a complete lie. We were scared shitless. I mean, pardon my language. Pardon my language.
No, don't
We were,
worry.
yeah, we were scared. I mean, I'd love to tell you it was like, okay, this is the right. Next day, 7 a.m., I'm in the warehouse shipping games to Wisconsin. I'm going, come on, what have I done? It's at 7 in the morning. I could be, I'd have a car and a new apartment. Crap. But for the third time now, it happens for you, not to you. Now the world in the game industry all of a sudden hears, who are these three schmoes up in Seattle turning down Milton Bradley? Maybe they've got something there. And so now we're starting to field more offers, and we wind up doing a deal with a joint venture. As it turns out, all the salesmen from Trivial Pursuit were out of jobs, so they formed a company. The manufacturer who manufactured millions and millions of Trivial Pursuit,
Mm-hmm.
and they joint ventured with the marketing company that did all the marketing for Trivial Pursuit. Yeah, right? I can see you're smiling. My goodness, the perfect storm.
Yeah.
The perfect storm. I mean, that was pure, it wasn't pure luck. It was by us having the guts to say, no, this isn't the right deal, to walk away from a deal that didn't feel and
Mm-hmm.
on paper didn't look right. It was a combination of the two. And so we were rewarded by sticking to our guts, to sticking to what we knew, because it was like Bill Gates, right? No, excuse me, Zuckerberg was offered $1 billion
Mm-hmm.
early on for Facebook. Same thing. We were offered our $1 billion, and we just kind of knew we had something special. I take that back. We knew we had something special, and we wanted to protect it. And let's be honest, protect it to make money at this point. I mean, let's call it what it is. In the beginning, it was all about creating the best product possible, doing the right thing by the product. But ultimately, it was about making money once you get to a certain point. So they start, and they're entrepreneurial, right? They're not this big conglomerate as well. That was a big part of it. So we went from 8,600 games my
Mm-hmm.
first year out of my apartment to 350,000 in year two in
Wow.
1986 because they're entrepreneur, right? So they're feeling their way, and we were at 350,000, the second biggest selling game in the country, behind Trivial Pursuit. The next year we sold 3 million. Yeah, right. Numbers get
That's
big quick.
incredible. Wow.
That's incredible. All by licensing, and again, because we do it with an entrepreneurial group, Hasbro. We knew this too as well. Milton Bradley would only produce to orders. So if you got 1 million in orders, they'll produce 1,000 games. These guys are going, why don't we produce 3 million? We've only got 1 million order. We'll get more. They took a risk too. And then in 1988, we sold 11 million games
Wow.
just in the US. We had a second version of Junior at that point.
Hmm.
And we sold 1 million in Europe. So now we're international, still living in that crappy little apartment. I did upgrade my car. I will admit that I upgraded. So yeah, no, it was just a perfect storm. As I say, the world was ready for Pictionary, and I happened to be the one to bring it to them. It was floating. There's this notion, and I completely agree with, that certain products, certain ideas are for everybody. Anybody could grasp onto it, and it shows itself, and you're the one that takes it. A lot of people knew about Pictionary. It showed itself to me. It showed itself to a lot of people, but I was the one that said, I'm going to go with this. So it doesn't make me different. It doesn't make me special. It just makes me have a little faith, have a little guts, a little glory. It was the right time, the right place. I was the right time, the right place.
And on paper, was that licensing agreement, was it better than what Milton Bradley was offering, higher or lower?
Much higher. Yeah, it was all the controls we wanted. By then, everybody knew it. We wanted, needed. So the royalties were more, and because there were royalties, we didn't have overhead. So one of the biggest questions I ever got asked early on from another company, big company, Worlds of Wonder, he asked me for business, from a business question, goes, do you want a game company or do you want to make money? I'm like 25 years old at this point. I'm going, if I have a game company, then I'll have employees, then I'll have manufacturing, and then I'll have distribution, and then I'm going to make all this money. Yeah, I want a game company.
Nope.
Nope, I blew that answer. He goes, wrong, Rob. I go, okay, Mr. Guy, tell us to. He goes, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. I really didn't quite understand that. So he explained licensing will be, we don't have to have manufacturing. We don't have to have inventory. We don't have to have employees. And so when the money started coming in, we didn't have to pay all those people. We just got to distribute the cash to the partners, right? So when you're doing your business, right? When you're doing your business, find out the best way or look at the best way that you can keep the most amount of money. Now, you do have to reinvest in your business. I mean, there's all kinds of other things that you have to take into consideration. But once you start selling and marketing, at some point, you're going to have to start making some financial decisions. And when you do, it's not what you make. Your revenues could be X, but if you don't have a profit, then it doesn't matter in the end. So, yeah, it worked out pretty well.
And at that point, are you still helping with the marketing and helping with the brand and as it develops?
That was one of the biggest reasons we didn't sign with Milton Bradley, is they wanted us to go away. We needed to be in control of the product. So we stayed with it for 15 years. So I've licensed the game. I'm 28 years old by then, maybe 29. And instead of walking away and become a serial entrepreneur, we went deeper in. We did some of our own marketing. We were making sure that the licensees around the world, we had probably 40 of them by the time we got done, making sure they were doing their job. Because when they're doing their job, guess what? They make more money. I mean, come on, let's be honest about it. I mean, I followed the money. If they wrote us a huge check, yes, I probably would have at 27, 28, 29 done another business. I mean, let's be honest, I love doing it. Done another game. But to walk away, I wasn't ready to do that just to make sure they were going to do their job and we would make more money. And so for, like I said, 15 years, we stayed involved. We stayed with the marketing. We stayed with them. I remained the face. So yeah, no, it was a blast. It was fun. But by the time I sold, I was 43, middle aged pretty much. So, that's when I had to decide, do I want to start another business or not? That was a big decision.
Yeah. And as you were growing and the product was becoming more and more popular, you're selling more units, what was changing? What was the marketing looking like when you started bringing in new products like Pictionary Junior, like you mentioned? What was that like?
It was, it was, it's a fashion industry like fashion. If you just have the Pictionary game, for all those years, like anything, people get a little bored. So we came up with a junior version. We came up with a travel, a party, um, a, a Simpsons version. I mean, we just kept, it was extending. We were on TV shows. We had when we owned it, we had 2 TV shows. So we just kept, inventing ourselves. We kept the guts of the first one. But yeah, of course we had to change the graphics ourselves. After we yelled at everybody else, no. After 10 years, we had to change the graphics. Just, practicality. So yeah, no, it was always reinventing ourselves incrementally. So everything was incremental income for that first, over and above the first, as we call it, the senior game, the first game.
And initially you were doing more unconventional marketing. You're going into all these different stores. Now were you starting to do more traditional marketing, like the TV shows and stuff like that? Or were you trying to still reinvent that game?
Yeah, we did a lot of traditional, but in reality, because the game was so freaking popular, we
Yeah.
didn't really need to do much. I mean, we got super lucky that one person would play it with their friends, and 3 people go out and buy it. So word of mouth was our marketing back then. I mean, it was just play it, you bought it. We did spend contractually. They spent $7 million on a commercial. And we thought we were so smart. We thought this was the best commercial ever. And it was fantastic. And we kind of forced them to live up their contractual obligations. $7 million in advertising. It was terrible. It was terrible.
No.
It was like, yeah, this would happen to us, not for us. I mean, it was, they spent $7 million and we may have sold an extra 50 games. The commercial was ill-conceived. We thought it was clever. It was too clever. We won't go into details. So yeah, at some point you just, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So the lesson we did learn was trust the experts. They tried to talk us out of it, but we had control. And they said, well, and we said, no, and so, yeah, listen, you do have to pay attention to and listen to your mentors, listen to your principals, listen to the people that are experts. We still had to make the decision, but we didn't. To do it again, we wouldn't have had them do that. But 1,000 decisions in life and business where you would make a different choice. But it didn't sink us, which is the most important thing.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you eventually sold to Mattel in 2001. What was that like? Were you negotiating? Did they come up to you? Were you looking to sell?
Yeah, just to back up really fast, so I talk about, so there was a time. This is a little the serious part of the day. After about 6 years in, I started getting anxiety. I started having depression. I was getting burned out. I didn't have self-care. I was a mess because I didn't take care of myself. It wasn't just burnout, but it was decision making became a problem. I was taking everything personally. I didn't know how to deal, and I became a big distraction in the office. And knowing what I know now, I would have taken time for myself. I would have taken an hour a day to go work out or even go for a walk or watch television. It doesn't matter, because that's what I needed. And I didn't know that. And the business, this notion you have to work 24/7 is BS. It's BS. You can take an hour or 2. You can take a weekend. Your business will be there when you get back. Because if you're not at peak performance, then your business isn't at peak performance. And this is all personal. This is all me. This is what my story, that that it was cumulative after all those years. So in the middle of our biggest year, about 3 years in, I took a leave of absence from Pictionary. I had to leave.
Hmm.
I was a disruption in the office, and so I cannot stress enough to take care of yourself. When you see these telltale signs that a little anxious, a little depressed, I mean, there's always a little emotion. There just always is. But if you see something coming, take care of yourself, whether it's getting help, whether it's talking to somebody, whether it's taking a day or two off consistently, meditation, whatever it is. I don't care if you watch television for an hour, but self-care and taking care of yourself. So I took 6 months to get myself together.
Hmm.
It's the easiest way I can say. And so by the time I went back, my partners were brilliant. They accepted me back. They took care of it, the business while I was gone. But when I got back, they accepted me for what I was able to do and not able to do. And I just managed my participation, what worked for me and the business. I mean, I got heavily involved again. Let's make no mistake. I enjoyed the business. And so I just cannot stress enough to follow not your intuition. If you think something's coming and you can feel it, it's real. It's real. Don't push it aside. Get it taken care of somehow, whatever that looks like for you.
And what was that 6-month journey like for you?
Terrible. Horrible. Oh my goodness. It was, I didn't leave the house. I mean, the first 2 months were terrible. I mean, I didn't leave I don't need to get into details. It was terrible. So it took a couple of months after that where I finally started understanding what was going on. And then took another couple of months of, getting some help and understanding what I can and can't do, what I need to do and what I shouldn't do. And it was just self-reflection. A lot of it was just self-reflection, getting to know myself better. I mean, that sounds a little corny, but it was true. And so, like I say, by the time I went back, I'd figured out what I wanted to do within the business. And again, I went in headlong again. But I was ready to go.
Yeah.
But I kept up my practice. I kept up with taking care of myself moving forward once I went back. I wasn't going to let myself get back into that, nor was I going to do it to my partners, for goodness sakes. I mean, leaving for 6 months, I put a lot of stress on those guys.
And as an entrepreneur, do you think that there's a way of spotting those signs before it becomes too late? Because obviously you want to work as hard as you can and get that business off the ground and keep going. What's that balance like, and how do you find that balance?
It's an inner knowing. You will, for me, it was one of our hallmarks of our business. We took our egos out of our decisions. So everything was based on Pictionary. So if we got in fights, it was about Pictionary. Right? We knew whoever yelled the loudest, quite frankly, was probably right because they were rooting for Pictionary. I started taking everything personal. I started getting mad at my partners. I could tell my mood was changing. My mindset, not just my mood, my mindset was changing. Now, there's always going to be consternation. There's always going to be, in any business, any relationship, partner relationship, there's going to be problems. There are. So I'm not remotely suggesting that it's not going to be times of holy crap, what's going on here? But when you know within yourself that there's a change, and you'll know the change, that's when you have to pay attention. So it's just like business, like yourself, just pay attention to what's going on. And sometimes your partners will tell you as well. I mean, let's be honest, they were okay with me leaving. It wasn't like, yeah. So they were brilliant.
And just to wrap this up, the scene is yours. Is there anything else you wanted to share with our listeners that you haven't shared yet?
Yeah, I love the title of your
Thank
podcast.
you.
Yeah, it was so descriptive what I heard, be seen. And I literally, my brain went to all the different times, physically.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, when I was being seen, and it brought some great memories. I mean, the Nordstroms, and we used to for marketing back in the day, we literally would take a game, go to a restaurant, open the game, and start playing at a table, and the staff's going, "What the are you doing?" We're just playing this new game, and maybe you'd want to. And so we were we were unmerciful on the fun we were having, yeah, on marketing the game. I think my parting advice is stay curious about yourself, about your business, right? Always learn, always grow, and and we can only control our emotions. We can only control ourselves. And so when things happen, like I said earlier, not if, but when things happen, just know, okay, we'll get through it, right? And then when you start trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting your emotions, trusting that you're on the right path, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Even when the decisions are wrong, it's like, okay. So just trust yourself. As entrepreneurs, everybody is going to tell you what you're doing right, and more importantly, going to tell you what you're doing wrong. Don't listen. Don't listen. Trust yourself. Trust your business. Trust your team. Trust your partners, and you'll know when it's time to either turn around or just keep going 1,000% faster with your hair on fire.
That's great advice. Well, thank you. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.